3 months had passed since humans left the Galaxy Council. Captain Lee Min SCO was drinking coffee on the bridge of her warship when the emergency call came in. The message was from the Kepler Mining Company and the voice sounded scared. The mining boss was a crystal person named something that sounded like breaking glass. His words came out fast and worried space pirates had attacked his mining stations in the Helix Nebula. His workers were trapped and his security guards were dead. The pirates had big ships and lots of guns. Captain Lee Min SCO remembered the Kepler Mining Company very well 6 months ago. They had banned all human workers from their stations. They said humans were too aggressive for peaceful mining work. They said human workers made other aliens feel unsafe. They said they could handle security themselves. Now the same crystal person was begging for human help. His voice was shaking as he talked about the pirates destroying his equipment. The pirates were taking all the valuable minerals and killing anyone who tried to stop them. The crystal people had no weapons and no fighters. Lieutenant Cho Han-sol was the communications officer on the ship. He was young and still believed in helping everyone. He looked at Captain Lee Min SCO with hopeful eyes. Maybe they could bend the rules just this once. Maybe they could save the mining workers without anyone knowing. But Captain Lee Min SCO had her orders from Earth. Humanity was no longer the galaxy's police force. Humans would not respond to alien distress calls anymore. The galaxy had wanted independence from human protection. Now they had what they asked for. She told Lieutenant Cho Han-sol to send a polite message back. They would express their regret about the situation. They would suggest that the mining company contact the Galactic Council for help. They would wish them good luck with their problem. The crystal person sent another message. This time he was crying. His workers were sending final goodbye messages to their families. The pirates were getting closer to the main mining station where thousands of aliens worked. The Council's rescue ships were still days away. Captain Lee Min SCO felt bad for the workers who were going to die, but she remembered all the times humans had been insulted and rejected. She remembered all the human soldiers who had died protecting aliens who did not appreciate them. She remembered all the complaints about human aggression on Earth. President Park So-young was watching the galactic news feeds from her office. Every day brought new reports of problems across the galaxy. Trade routes that had been safe for decades were now dangerous. Space pirates were attacking merchant ships everywhere. The Valerian shipping lanes were the worst. The blue people had always been bad at fighting. They had relied on human patrol ships to keep their trade routes safe. Now their cargo ships were being robbed and destroyed almost daily. The blue people were losing money fast. Commander Yoon Seok-jin came into the president's office with a datapad full of bad news. He was the president's chief of staff and he looked very tired. His job had become much harder since humanity left the council. Every day brought hundreds of requests for help. The datapad showed that over 1,000 alien groups had asked for human assistance in the past week. Some wanted military help with pirates, some wanted medical help with diseases, some wanted technical help with broken equipment. All of them were desperate. President Park So-young read through the requests. Many came from the same aliens who had voted to limit human power just months ago. The slug people who had called humans dangerous now wanted human engineers to fix their computers. The bird people who had called humans noisy now wanted human doctors to cure their sick. Commander Yoon Seok-jin showed her the most interesting request. It came from the same Valerian chancellor who had led the campaign against human military expansion. His planet was being attacked by raiders and his defense forces were losing badly. He offered to give humans special trading rights if they would help him. The president almost laughed. The same aliens who had feared human power now realized they needed it. The same aliens who had wanted to control human military forces now begged for human protection. The same aliens who had complained about human aggression now wished humans were more aggressive. But President Park So-young had learned from history. She remembered how humans had always rushed to help aliens in trouble. She remembered how that help was always forgotten when the crisis ended. She remembered how aliens always went back to complaining about humans after humans saved them. The news feeds showed more problems every day. The peaceful trade agreements between alien species were breaking down without human mediation. The mining disputes that humans had helped solve were starting again. The border conflicts that human diplomats had ended were heating up. Commander Yoon Seok-jin brought more disturbing news. Deep space monitoring stations were picking up strange energy readings. The readings came from the empty space between galaxies. The energy signatures looked familiar but stronger than before. President Park So-young felt cold when she saw the energy readings. She had seen similar readings 20 years ago during the Void Swarm invasion. The Void Swarm was a group of machines. From outside the galaxy, they ate entire star systems and turned everything into more machines. 20 years ago, the Void Swarm had almost destroyed the galaxy. Only human weapons could hurt them, and only human tactics could defeat them. The other alien species had been useless in the fight. Human soldiers had died by the millions to push the machines back. Now the energy readings suggested the Void Swarm might be returning. The machines had learned from their defeat. They had spent 20 years in the dark space between galaxies getting stronger and smarter. If they came back, they would be much harder to stop. President Park So-young called a meeting with her top advisors. They needed to discuss what to do if the Void Swarm returned. The aliens had no defense against the machines. Only humans had the weapons and knowledge to fight them. Defense Minister Lee Jong-soo was worried about the alien requests for help. He said the galaxy's security was falling apart without human protection. The old balance of power was breaking down. Strong alien species were bullying weak ones. Pirates were everywhere. Foreign Minister Kim Erin had a different worry. She said the aliens were getting desperate. Desperate aliens might do dangerous things. They might start wars with each other. They might try to force humans to help them. They might even try to attack human colonies. President Park So-young looked at the reports from across the galaxy. Without human protection, the galaxy was becoming a dangerous place. The careful peace that had lasted for decades was crumbling. Species that had lived together peacefully were now fighting over resources. The mining companies were fighting over asteroid fields. The shipping companies were hiring private armies to protect their cargo. The planet governments were building bigger military forces. Everyone was scared and everyone was preparing for war, but the most worrying news came from the deep space sensors. The energy readings were getting stronger. The readings were coming from multiple locations. The pattern looked like the Void Swarm was massing for another invasion. President Park So-young made a hard decision. She ordered all human military forces to return to human space. She ordered all human colonies to prepare their defenses. She ordered all human civilians to leave alien territories. The galaxy had wanted independence from human protection. Now they would have to face whatever came next without human help. The aliens had made their choice, and now they would live with the consequences. The universe was about to become a much more dangerous place. Captain Lee Min-seo received the recall orders while her ship was still near the Kepler mining stations. The Crystal people were still sending desperate messages. The pirates were still attacking the mining workers. The situation was getting worse every hour, but Captain Lee Min-seo followed her orders. She turned her ship around and headed back to human space behind her. The mining stations sent final distress calls asking for help that would never come. The galaxy was learning what it meant to be without human protection. The silence from humanity was deafening. The giant metal room was full of angry voices and weird smells. Kim Tae-ho stood at the front looking at all the alien creatures who were mad at him. His hands were shaking, but he tried to hide it. The room was so big that his voice would echo when he spoke, but right now he was just listening to them complain about humans again. For 50 years, Kim Tae-ho had been coming to these meetings. His hair used to be black, but now it was white from all the stress he remembered when he was young and excited to represent Earth. Now he was old and tired of listening to the same complaints over and over again. Blue Lady from Valaria was talking again. Her name was something long that humans could not say right. She had 6 arms and she waved them around when she got mad. Right now, all 6 arms were moving like she was trying to fly. Her voice was high and squeaky like a bird. She said humans were too mean and too strong. She said human soldiers scared other aliens. She said human ships were too big and had too many guns. She forgot to mention that those same human soldiers had saved her planet 3 times. Those same big ships had protected her people when space pirates tried to attack them. Behind the Blue Lady sat the Crystal people. They looked like walking diamonds, but they were not pretty. They made clicking sounds when they talked. It sounded like breaking glass. The Crystal people were rich because they controlled most of the space banks, but they never spent money on armies. When bad things happened, they always called humans for help. Next to them, were the slug people. They were green and slimy, and they moved very slow. When they talked, green stuff came out of their mouths. It was gross, but Kim Tae-ho had learned to not make faces. The slug people were smart and they made good computers, but they were also very lazy. They never wanted to fight anyone. There were other aliens too, the cat people with their soft fur and big eyes, the robot people who talked in beeps and clicks, the tree people who grew flowers on their heads. All of them had the same thing to say: humans were too dangerous, humans were too aggressive, humans needed to be controlled. Kim Tae-ho wanted to laugh. It was so crazy that he almost smiled. These same aliens had been crying for human help just last month. The space monsters called the Void Swarm had attacked the edge of the galaxy. The aliens tried to fight them, but their weapons did not work. Only human weapons could hurt the Void Swarm. Only human soldiers were brave enough to fight them. The young human soldier Park Ji-woo stood next to Kim Tae-ho. She was his helper and she was very smart. She whispered in his ear, telling him what each alien was saying. Her face was red with anger, but she kept quiet like a good soldier. The blue lady was still talking. She said humans were expanding too fast into space. She said human colonies were taking resources from other aliens. She said humans were making other species feel unsafe. Kim Tae-ho had heard all this before, but today felt different. Today he was more angry than usual. He thought about all the human soldiers who had died protecting alien worlds. He thought about the human doctors who had worked for free on alien planets. He thought about the human farmers who had taught aliens how to grow better food. He thought about the human engineers who had built better spaceships for aliens who could not build them themselves. The crystal people started clicking louder. They were talking about limiting human military power. They wanted to put rules on how many ships humans could have. They wanted to decide where human soldiers could go. They wanted to control human technology. Kim Tae-ho felt his heart beating faster. This was too much. The same aliens who begged for human help now wanted to make humans weaker. They wanted protection, but they also wanted to feel safe from their protectors. It made no sense. A new alien started talking. This one was tall and thin with purple skin. His voice was deep and scary. He said humans were evolving too fast. He said humans were becoming too powerful. He said other species were afraid that humans would take over the galaxy. The purple alien forgot to mention that humans had never taken over any alien planet. Humans had liberated planets, but they always gave them back. Humans had defeated alien tyrants, but they never became tyrants themselves. Humans had the power to rule the galaxy, but they chose to serve it instead. Park Ji-woo whispered more numbers in Kim Tae-ho's ear. Human casualties from the last war were over 2 million dead. Human medical aid had saved 50 billion alien lives in the past decade. Human food programs had ended hunger on 30 different planets. Human technology had made space travel safer for everyone. Slug people started making their gross talking sounds. They were agreeing with everyone else. They said humans needed to be watched more carefully. They said human behavior was unpredictable. They said humans made decisions too quickly without thinking about consequences. This was the worst insult of all. Humans made quick decisions because someone had to. When space pirates attacked, humans responded in hours, not days. When natural disasters struck alien worlds, human rescue ships arrived first. When the Void Swarm invaded, human fleets were the first to fight back. Kim Tae-ho remembered the Battle of Kepler Station. The aliens had argued for 6 days about how to respond to the Void Swarm attack. During those 6 days, 3 planets were destroyed. Human Admiral Kong the Jin had ignored the debate and launched an attack that saved millions of lives. Later, the aliens complained that she had acted without permission. The meeting kept going for hours. More aliens stood up to complain about humans. The bird people said humans were too noisy. The water people said humans were too dry. The cold people said humans were too warm. Everyone had something bad to say about the species that protected them all. Park Ji-woo showed Kim Tae-ho a datapad. It had messages from Earth. People back home were getting tired of the complaints too. Human colonies were asking why they should keep helping aliens who did not appreciate them. Human military leaders were questioning why they should risk their lives for people who feared them. The room got quiet for a moment. Kim Tae-ho thought maybe the aliens were finished complaining. But then the blue lady stood up again. She had a new proposal. She wanted to create a committee to oversee human military actions. She wanted aliens to have the power to approve or reject human military decisions. This was the last straw. Kim Tae-ho had listened to 50 years of complaints. He had watched millions of humans die for alien worlds. He had seen human families broken by wars fought for alien freedom. He had given his whole life to serving people who never said thank you. He stood up slowly. His old legs were stiff from sitting. Too long the room got quiet. All the aliens looked at him with their strange eyes. Some looked scared, some looked angry, some looked confused. They all waited to hear what he would say. Kim Tae-ho looked around the room at all the different alien faces. He thought about all the human graves on alien worlds. He thought about all the human children who grew up without parents because their mothers and fathers died protecting aliens. He thought about all the human dreams that were sacrificed for alien safety. His voice was quiet at first, but it got stronger as he spoke. He told them they were ungrateful. He told them they were cowards. He told them they wanted protection, but not protectors. He told them they could not have it both ways. The aliens started making angry noises, but Kim Tae-ho kept talking. He told them about human sacrifice and human service. He told them about human blood spilled on alien soil. He told them about human generosity and alien selfishness. Then he said the words that would change everything. He said humanity was done. He said humans would no longer serve the Galactic Council. He said humans were going home. He said the aliens could protect themselves from now on. The room exploded with noise. Aliens were screaming and clicking and buzzing. Everyone was talking at once. The blue lady was waving all 6 arms. The crystal people were flashing bright lights. The slug people were making awful gurgling sounds. Kim Tae-ho started walking toward the door park. Ji-woo followed him. They walked slowly and with dignity. Even though the room was full of chaos, they moved like they had all the time in the world. The blue lady shouted after them. She said they could not leave. She said the galaxy needed human protection. She said terrible things would happen without humans. Kim Tae-ho stopped at the door. He turned around one last time. He looked at all the aliens who had spent decades complaining about human help. He smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who was finally free. He told them they had made their choice. They had chosen to fear humans instead of trusting them. They had chosen to complain instead of being grateful. They had chosen to limit their protectors instead of supporting them. Now they would live with the consequences of their choice. Then Kim Tae-ho and Park Ji-woo walked out of the room. Behind them, the aliens kept screaming and shouting, but the 2 humans did not look back. They had work to do. They had to go home and tell Earth that humanity's service to the galaxy was over. The universe was about to learn what it was like without human protection. President Park So-young was working late in her office when the strangest transmission of her life came through. The message bypassed all security systems and appeared directly on her personal screen. The being on the screen was unlike anything she had ever seen. The creature was tall and graceful with silver skin that seemed to glow. Its eyes looked like tiny stars, and its voice was soft but powerful. It spoke perfect Korean, which should have been impossible since no alien had ever learned human languages so completely. "I'm Kael'tar of the Ancients," the being said. "We are the first species to survive a void swarm attack. We have been watching your species with great interest. You humans have qualities that most species lack." President Park So-young leaned forward in her chair. The ancients were legends mentioned only in the oldest galactic records. Most people believe they were myth stories told to make young aliens feel better about the dangers of space. Your current crisis is not the same as 20 years ago. Kael'tar continued. The swarm you face now has learned from their defeat. They have evolved beyond your previous countermeasures. Only one thing can stop them now. The being's image flickered and changed, showing vast machines of impossible design. The technology looked organic and mechanical at the same time. The ships were beautiful, but also terrifying, like art made from weapons. "We offer you our knowledge, our weapons, our alliance," Kael'tar said, "but no. This, if you accept, you will become the galaxy's guardians, whether you choose to or not. The burden cannot be shared or refused." President Park So-young studied the alien's face, trying to understand what it wanted. The ancients had disappeared from galactic history millions of years ago. Now they were returning at humanity's darkest hour. "What is the price?" she asked. The being smiled sadly. "You must choose now: save the galaxy that rejected you, or watch it burn and face the swarm alone when it comes for you. Your species has 18 months before the swarm reaches human space." President Park So-young looked at the data streams showing the swarm's advance. Entire sectors of the galaxy were dark zones. Now the remaining alien civilizations were scattered and broken, their fleets were destroyed, and their worlds were consumed. The choice was horrible but clear. Humanity could save their enemies or face destruction alone. The aliens had rejected human protection, but billions of innocent people were dying. The universe was becoming empty and dark within. HFY's President Park So-young had called together her top military commanders. Admiral Kang the-jin arrived first, followed by the other fleet admirals. The room was filled with tension as they discussed the ancient offer. The ancient technology was incredible beyond human understanding. Their weapons could adapt to any defense. Their ships could travel faster than anything in the galaxy. Their knowledge spanned millions of years of warfare, but accepting the ancient alliance meant taking responsibility for the entire galaxy. Humanity would become the permanent guardians of space. The burden of protection would never end. The aliens would always depend on human strength. Admiral Kang the-jin studied the ancient weapon specifications. These technologies could defeat the Void Swarm, but they required human operators. The ancients would provide the tools, but humans would have to use them in battle. The admiral warned that this war would be different from any previous conflict. The scale of fighting would be enormous. The casualties would be devastating. The outcome would determine the fate of the universe. President Park So-young made the hardest decision of her life. She accepted the ancient alliance and ordered the human fleet to mobilize, but this time humanity would not be serving the council, they would be leading it. The first human relief fleet arrived at the Valerian homeworld just as the Void Swarm reached the outer planets. Captain Lee Min-seo now commanded the experimental battleship Defiance, equipped with ancient technology that humanity barely understood. Swarm machines were bigger and more numerous than 20 years ago. Their black hulls absorbed light, making them look like holes in space. Their weapons could vaporize planets, and their shields could deflect any known attack. Captain Lee Min-seo watched her sensors as the familiar quantum disruption weapons failed against the swarms. Adapted defenses. The machines had learned from their previous defeat. The old human weapons were useless. All ships, this is Defiance. She broadcast to the human fleet, activate ancient protocols. We are going to show these machines what happens when they mess with the wrong species. The ancient weapons came online with a sound like singing. The human ships began to glow with energy that looked like liquid starlight. The machines that had seemed invincible suddenly looked vulnerable. The battle that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. The human ships moved with impossible speed and graced the ancient weapons, cut through swarm defenses like they were made of paper. The machines that had consumed worlds were being destroyed, but the swarm fought back with terrifying intelligence. Their machines adapted to each attack within minutes. Their coordination was perfect, and their numbers seemed endless. The battle raged for hours across multiple star systems. Captain Lee Min-seo felt the ancient technology flowing through her ship. The weapons responded to her thoughts and emotions. The ship moved like it was alive. The boundary between human and machine began to blur. The Valerian survivors watched from their dying planet as human ships fought impossible odds. The blue people who had complained about human aggression now saw that aggression used to save their lives. Lieutenant Cho Han-sol reported that the swarm was retreating from the system, but their withdrawal was organized and purposeful. The machines were learning from this defeat, just as they had learned from the previous one. Captain Lee Min-seo knew that this was only the beginning. The Void Swarm had tested human defenses and found them strong, but the machines would adapt and return. The real war was just starting. Across the galaxy, human fleets were arriving at dying alien worlds. The ships carried ancient technology, but they were crewed by human warriors. The combination of ancient knowledge and human determination was proving effective. Admiral Kang the-jin coordinated the battles from her flagship. The human forces were outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1, but they were winning. The ancient weapons could destroy swarm machines, and the human tactics could outmaneuver them, but the cost was terrible. Human casualties were mounting with each battle. The ancient technology was powerful, but it required human sacrifice to operate. The weapons demanded life force from their operators. President Park So-young watched the battle reports with growing concern. Humanity was winning, but the price was enormous. Young human soldiers were aging rapidly from using ancient weapons. Human ships were being destroyed by swarm counterattacks. The alien messages were different now. Instead of complaints About human power, they contained gratitude and amazement, the same species that had feared human strength now begged for more human protection, but President Park So-young knew that alien gratitude was temporary. When the crisis ended, the aliens would return to their old fears. They would want to limit human power again. They would find new reasons to complain. The difference this time was that humanity would not give aliens the choice. The ancient alliance had made humans the permanent guardians of the galaxy. The burden of protection could never be shared or refused. The war against the Void Swarm was far from over. The machines were adapting to human tactics and ancient technology. The battle for the galaxy's survival had only just begun, but for the first time in months, there was hope. The darkness was being pushed back. The galaxy's ancient civilizations might survive. Human heroes were rising to meet the greatest threat the universe had ever known. The reluctant heroes had accepted their destiny. The guardians of the galaxy had returned to their duty. The universe would learn what it meant to have humanity's protection again. Commander Jang Hyun-woo was working the night shift at Luna Station when his computer started going crazy. The deep space sensors were showing massive energy buildups in 12 different star systems at the same time. The readings were so high, they broke his measurement. Equipment technician Kim Soo-jin ran over to his station with her face white with fear. She had been monitoring the outer galaxy sensors for 5 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The energy signatures were bigger than anything in their database except for one terrible match 20 years ago. The same energy readings had appeared before the Void Swarm invasion. The Void Swarm was a collection of machine intelligences from outside the galaxy. They consumed entire star systems and turned everything into more machines. They had no emotions and no mercy. Commander Jang Hyun-woo felt his heart beating faster the last time. The Void Swarm had attacked. It had taken everything. Humanity had to stop them. Human fleets had fought desperate battles across the galaxy. Millions of human soldiers had died protecting alien worlds. The worst part was that alien weapons had been completely useless against the swarm machines. Only human quantum disruption technology could damage their adaptive shields. Only human tactical flexibility could match their rapid evolution. Only human determination could outlast their relentless attacks. Kim Soo-jin was checking the sensor data again and again, hoping she had made a mistake, but the readings were clear. The energy signatures were not just the same as 20 years ago. They were stronger, much stronger. The machines had learned from their defeat. Commander Jang Hyun-woo called Earth immediately. President Park So-young needed to know about this right away. The Void Swarm was returning, and they were coming back with better technology. The galaxy was about to face its greatest threat within hours. The first attack reports started coming in. The Zephyrite homeworld had stopped sending communications. The crystal people who lived there had built beautiful cities that sparkled like jewels. Now, those cities were probably being consumed by machine swarms. The Mortani colonies were sending final, desperate messages. Before their signals went dead, the slug people had 12 different planets in their territory. All 12 planets went silent within minutes of each other. The speed of the attacks was terrifying. President Park So-young was in the war room with her top military advisors. The reports kept getting worse. The Valerian fleet had tried to fight the swarm and had been completely destroyed. The blue people had sent 300 warships against the machines. Not a single ship had survived. Admiral Kang De-jin was studying the battle reports with growing alarm. The Void Swarm was using completely new tactics. Their machines were adapting to defenses faster than ever before. The quantum disruption weapons that had worked 20 years ago were now useless. The Admiral had fought the Void Swarm before she knew how dangerous they were. She also knew that humanity was the only species that had ever successfully fought them back. The other alien species had military forces, but they were designed to fight other aliens, not machine swarms. Emergency transmissions were flooding human communication networks. The same alien leaders who had voted to restrict human military power were now begging for human help. The fear in their voices was real and desperate. The Valerian Chancellor appeared on screens across Earth. His blue skin was pale with terror and his 6 arms were shaking. He spoke directly to the human people, asking them to forgive the mistakes of the past. He promised that aliens would never again question human leadership. But President Park So-young remembered all the times humans had saved the galaxy. She remembered how quickly aliens forgot human sacrifices. She remembered how aliens always went back to complaining about humans after the crisis ended. Defense Minister Lee Gongsu was studying the tactical reports. The Void Swarm was advancing faster than ever before. Their machines were learning from each battle and becoming stronger. The few remaining alien fleets were either destroyed or running away. The minister estimated that the swarm would consume the entire galaxy within 6 months. The alien species had no effective weapons against the machines. Their military tactics were too rigid and predictable. Their leaders were too slow to make hard decisions. Foreign Minister Kim A-rin brought even worse news. The alien governments were starting to collapse. The Crystal people had lost their homeworld, and their government had fled. The Slug people had lost most of their colonies, and their leaders were missing. Some alien species were surrendering without fighting. They hoped the machines would spare them if they did not resist. Others were fighting desperately but uselessly. Their weapons could not damage the adaptive shields of the swarm machines. President Park So-young watched the tactical displays showing the swarms advance. Entire sectors of the galaxy were going dark. The ancient civilizations that had existed for thousands of years were being destroyed in days. The galaxy was dying. The most desperate messages came from species that had been especially hostile to humans. The bird people who had called humans too noisy were now screaming for human help. The water people who had said humans were too dry were drowning in their own tears. Each alien message offered more and more in exchange for human protection. The Crystal people offered their entire banking system. The Slug people offered their advanced computer technology. The bird people offered their beautiful music and art. But President Park So-young had learned that gratitude was temporary. Fear made aliens remember human value, but when the fear ended, they would forget again. They would go back to complaining about human power and trying to limit human influence. Admiral Kang the-jin brought the most important news. The Void Swarm had learned from their previous defeat. They had adapted their machines to resist quantum disruption. The primary human weapon against them was no longer effective. The Admiral explained that the swarm machines were now using distributed intelligence networks. Each machine learned from the experiences of all other machines. Their adaptive shields could now handle any known human weapon technology. Commander Jang Hyun-woo reported that the swarm was using new tactics as well. Instead of attacking one system at a time, they were attacking multiple systems simultaneously. Their coordination was perfect and their advance was unstoppable. The aliens were offering everything they had in exchange for human help. They promised to give humans complete military authority over all galactic defenses. They promised to never again question human decisions. They promised to be grateful forever. But President Park So-young knew that alien promises were worthless. When the crisis ended, the aliens would find new reasons to complain about human power. They would want to limit human authority again. They would forget their promises of gratitude. The tactical displays showed the swarm getting closer to human space. The machines were consuming alien worlds at an incredible rate. The galaxy's defenses were crumbling like sand. The alien species were learning what it meant to be defenseless. Defense Minister Lee Jong-soo estimated that the swarm would reach human borders within 18 months. At current rates of advance, the machines would consume the entire galaxy before reaching human space. The aliens would all be dead. Foreign Minister Kim A-rin suggested that maybe this was for the best. The aliens had rejected human protection, and now they were facing the consequences. Their suffering would teach future generations to appreciate human sacrifice. But President Park So-young was not cruel. She did not want to watch billions of innocent aliens die. She did not want to see the galaxy's ancient civilizations destroyed forever. She did not want the universe to become empty and dark. The question was whether humanity should save the very aliens who had rejected them, whether humans should risk their lives again for people who would probably be ungrateful again, whether the galaxy deserved another chance. Admiral Kang the-jin said the military was ready to fight. The human fleets were the strongest they had ever been. Human weapons technology had continued advancing. Human tactical doctrine had improved since the last war, but the Admiral also warned that this war would be harder than the last one. The Void Swarm had learned and adapted. The machines would be more dangerous than ever. before many humans would die in the fighting President Park. So Young looked at the reports of alien suffering. The galaxy was burning and only humanity could stop the fire. The aliens had made their choice to reject human protection. Now humanity had to make their choice about whether to save them anyway. The clock was ticking and the swarm was advancing. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. 1 year after the Great War ended, Admiral Kang the Jin stood in the rebuilt council chamber, but everything was different now. She wore the uniform of Supreme Commander of Galactic Defense, and every alien in the room looked at her with respect and fear. The chamber was smaller than before because so many alien species had been destroyed by the void swarm. The survivors sat quietly and listened carefully when humans spoke. The days of alien complaints and demands were over forever. The galaxy is secure, Admiral Kang the Jin announced to the assembly. The void swarm has been pushed back beyond the galactic rim. Our sensor networks will detect any future invasion attempts. The ancient threat has been defeated. The alien delegates nodded respectfully. The few species that had survived the war were very different from the proud civilizations that had once challenged human authority. The crystal people had lost their homeworld. The slug people had lost most of their colonies. Gone was the arrogance that had once filled this chamber. Gone was the suspicion and fear of human power. Gone were the complaints about human military expansion. In their place was gratitude and a healthy understanding of human capabilities. President Park So-young now held the title of First Speaker of the Galactic Council. She looked out at the assembled aliens with mixed emotions. The war had saved the galaxy, but the cost had been terrible for everyone. We did not ask for this responsibility, she said to the remaining alien leaders, but we have learned that power cannot be separated from duty. Humanity will protect this galaxy, but we will do so as leaders, not as servants. The change in alien attitudes was complete. The same species that had once voted to limit human authority now begged humans to take complete control. The same aliens who had feared human aggression now wished humans were more aggressive. The Valerian Chancellor was one of the few original council members to survive the war. His blue skin was scarred from battles, and his voice was weak from old age. He stood slowly and spoke to the human leaders. How can we ever repay what humanity has done? He asked. The humans saved our species when we deserved destruction. The humans fought for us when we had rejected them. The humans died for us when we had shown them no gratitude. President Park So-young looked at the old alien leader with sadness in her eyes. The war had taught everyone hard lessons. The aliens had learned what it meant to be without human protection. The humans had learned what it meant to be truly alone. By remembering, she said simply, by remembering. Remember that when you push away those who protect you, you leave yourself defenseless. Remember that strength and aggression are not the same thing. Remember that help should be appreciated, not feared. The new galactic order was built on the foundation of human sacrifice. Over 2 million human soldiers had died fighting the void swarm. Human colonies had been destroyed. Human families had been shattered. The price of saving the galaxy had been paid in human blood, but the aliens had paid an even higher price. Entire civilizations had been consumed by the swarm machines. Ancient cultures had been erased from history forever. Billions of aliens had died because their leaders had rejected human protection. The surviving alien species were completely dependent on human military power. The ancient alliance had made humans the permanent guardians of the galaxy. The burden of protection could never be shared or refused. Admiral Kang the Jin reviewed the new military structure. Human commanders led all galactic defense forces. Human technology powered all military equipment. Human tactics guided all strategic planning. The aliens provided support, but humans made all decisions. The change was not just military. Human influence extended to all aspects of galactic life. Human doctors trained alien medical personnel. Human engineers designed alien infrastructure. Human diplomats mediated alien disputes. President Park So-young established the new rules for galactic governance. The council would vote on civilian matters, but all military decisions belonged to humans alone. No alien species could build weapons without human approval. No alien fleet could operate without human commanders. The aliens accepted these restrictions without complaint. They had learned that independence from human protection meant death. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and only humans had the strength to defend it. The war had changed humanity too. The ancient alliance had given humans incredible power, but it had also given them incredible responsibility. Every human soldier knew that the galaxy's survival depended on human strength. Captain Lee Min SEO now commanded an entire fleet of ancient enhanced warships. The technology had bonded with human operators, creating a new kind of warrior. The boundary between human and machine had blurred permanently. The ancient weapons required human life force to operate. Human soldiers aged rapidly during battles. Human commanders sacrificed years of their lives with each engagement. The power to protect the galaxy came with a terrible personal cost, but humans accepted this burden because they understood duty in ways that aliens never could. Human parents sent their children to die for alien worlds. Human soldiers fought without complaint for people who had once rejected them. The new galactic order was not perfect, but it was stable. The aliens had security, but they had lost their independence. The humans had authority, but they had gained responsibility. The universe had peace, but it was enforced by human strength. President Park So-young often thought about the old days when aliens had complained about human power. She remembered the debates about limiting human authority. She remembered the fear in alien eyes when humans showed their strength. Those days were gone forever. The galaxy had learned what happened when humans were pushed away. The aliens had discovered what the universe looked like without human protection. The lesson had been written. The Void Swarm moved through the galaxy like a deadly plague, consuming everything in its path. Admiral Konga Jin stood on the bridge of the battleship, eternal vigilance, watching star systems die one by one. The ancient civilizations that had survived for millions of years were being destroyed in mere hours. Lieutenant Commander Shin Dong-hyuk was monitoring the emergency communications channels. His face was grim as he reported the latest casualty numbers. 47 different alien species had sent desperate pleas for help. In the past day alone, they were offering everything they owned in exchange for human military assistance. The tactical displays showed the true scope of the disaster. The few remaining alien fleets were either completely destroyed or retreating in total panic. The Valerian Navy had lost 90% of its ships in a single battle. The Crystal People's defensive stations had been consumed like candy. Admiral Kang Jin had fought the original Void Swarm 20 years ago. She remembered the terror in alien eyes when their weapons proved useless. She remembered the desperate last stands on alien worlds. She remembered the human soldiers who had died protecting people who barely thanked them. But this time was different. The new Void Swarm was faster, smarter, and more deadly than before. Their machines adapted to every defense within minutes. Their coordination was perfect, and their advance seemed unstoppable. The galaxy's greatest nightmare had returned stronger than ever. Ensign Oh Jae-sung looked up from his communications station with shock in his voice. Admiral, we are getting a direct transmission from the Kepler Mining Consortium. They are offering humanity exclusive mining rights to the entire Helix Nebula if we help them. The irony was not lost on Admiral Kang Jin. The same mining company that had banned human workers for being too aggressive was now begging for human protection. The same Crystal People who had called humans dangerous were now offering their most valuable possessions. Tell them their offer is noted, Admiral Kang Jin said coldly. But remind them that they have a galactic council to protect them now. They chose to trust alien protection over human protection. Let them live with their choice. The communication officer's face showed he understood the message. The mining company would receive no help from humanity. Their workers would die, and their facilities would be consumed by the swarm. The price of rejecting human protection was being paid in blood. On Earth, President Park So-young was facing the hardest decision of her life. The war room was filled with her top advisors, and everyone had a different opinion. Some argued for immediate intervention, while others insisted that the galaxy needed to learn its lesson. Defense Minister Lee Jong-soo was pushing for military action. The Void Swarm will reach human space eventually, he argued. We can fight them now while they are still far away, or we can wait for them to grow stronger by consuming the entire galaxy. The minister had run the numbers, and they were terrifying. If the swarm consumed all alien worlds, they would have enough resources to build a machine army 10 times larger than before. Fighting them after they had eaten the galaxy would be almost impossible. Foreign Minister Kim A-rin disagreed completely. The aliens rejected our protection when they felt safe, she said. Now they want our help because they are scared if we save them again, they will just go back to complaining about us when the danger passes, the foreign minister reminded everyone of the pattern that had repeated throughout history. Aliens asked for human help during crises but complained about human power during peacetime. They wanted protection, but they did not want protectors. President Park So-young studied the reports from across the galaxy. The Void Swarm was not just destroying alien worlds, they were consuming entire star systems. The machines were turning planets into raw materials for building more machines. The speed of destruction was incredible. The bird people had lost their homeworld in 3 hours. The water people had evacuated their colonies, but the swarm had followed them. The tree people had tried to hide in asteroid fields, but the machines had found them. Each destroyed world meant billions of dead aliens. Each consumed star system meant ancient cultures erased forever. The galaxy was losing its history, its diversity, its beauty. The universe was becoming darker and emptier with each passing day. But President Park So-young also remembered the decades of alien ingratitude. She remembered the constant complaints about human military power. She remembered the votes to limit human authority. She remembered the fear and suspicion in alien. As the alien messages were getting more desperate by the hour, the surviving leaders were offering their entire civilizations in exchange for human help. They promised to make humans the permanent rulers of the galaxy. They promised to never question human decisions again. Admiral Kong, the Jin, reported that the human fleet was ready for battle. The ships were equipped with the latest weapons technology. The crews were trained and eager to fight. The military was confident they could defeat the swarm if they acted quickly. But the admiral also warned that casualties would be heavy. The new Void Swarm was much more dangerous than the original version. Many human soldiers would die in the fighting. Many human families would lose loved ones. Many human worlds might be attacked. President Park So-young looked at the tactical displays showing the swarm's relentless advance. At current speed, they would consume the core alien worlds within 6 months. They would reach human space within 18 months. The clock was ticking. The president thought about the human children who would grow up without parents if humanity went to war. She thought about the human colonies that might be destroyed if the war went badly. She thought about the human sacrifices that would be forgotten. Again, Defense Minister Lee Jong-soo brought new intelligence reports. The Void Swarm had adapted their machines to resist human quantum disruption technology. The primary weapon that had won the last war was now useless. The swarm had learned from their previous defeat. The minister explained that winning this war would require new tactics and new weapons. Humanity would need to innovate faster than ever before. The cost in human lives and resources would be enormous. The outcome was far from certain. Foreign Minister Kim Ae-rin pointed out that the aliens were already starting to blame humans for their problems. Some alien leaders were saying that humanity should have prevented the swarm invasion. Some were claiming that human withdrawal had caused the crisis. The foreign minister predicted that if humans saved the galaxy again, the aliens would eventually find ways to criticize human methods. They would complain about human casualties. Among alien civilians, they would question human military tactics. They would demand investigations into human conduct. President Park So-young realized that there was no perfect choice. If humanity intervened, they would pay a terrible price in blood and treasure. If humanity stayed out of the war, they would eventually face the swarm alone. When it reached human space, the alien messages kept coming, each more desperate than the last. The crystal people were offering their entire banking system. The slug people were offering their advanced technology. The bird people were offering their most sacred cultural treasures. But President Park So-young knew that alien gratitude was temporary. When the crisis ended and the danger passed, the aliens would return to their old complaints. They would want to limit human power again. They would find new reasons to fear human strength. The reports from Admiral Kang the Jin were getting worse. The Void Swarm was accelerating their advance. The machines were learning from each battle and becoming more efficient. The remaining alien defenses were crumbling faster than expected. The president looked at her advisors and saw the weight of decision on their faces. The fate of the galaxy rested in human hands. The choice was between saving ungrateful aliens or letting them face the consequences of their rejection. Time was running out, and the swarm was getting closer. The galaxy was Burning and only humanity could stop the fire, but saving the galaxy would mean risking everything for people who might not appreciate the sacrifice. The price of pride was being paid in alien blood, but the cost of mercy might be paid in human lives. The universe was waiting for humanity's decision.